Hi everyone, welcome to another 7-minute software video. Today we're going to look at drawing with Rhino. Now I say drawing, but what we're really going to be doing is drafting, which is essentially very precise drawing in 2D with points and lines. Now Rhino is a 3D modeling software, but it also has some pretty powerful 2D drawing tools. So today we're going to look at those and get you a little bit more comfortable drawing in 2D in Rhino. Okay, let's get started. So I'm going to open up Rhino, and the first thing you'll notice is that you can see the world in 3D in Rhino. Now for drawing in 2D, we're typically just going to use the virtual ground plane. So we're not even going to care about the perspective view. We're only going to look at the top view. And the first thing that we want to do is make sure that we're in the right units. So I'm going to type in units, and my unit properties show up. And I'm going to set my units to be inches, and also for the layout. Now units are super important because most of the time when you're drafting, you want to produce measurable drawings. Now to draw in 2D in Rhino, we're going to create points and lines just like we did in Illustrator. To draw polygonal lines, we can just click on our polyline tool here and click a point, click another point, click another point, and we get a shape. To draw individual lines, we can use the polyline tool again and just click 2 points and then hit enter or the right mouse button. To draw perfectly 90-degree lines, we can use the polyline again and just like in Illustrator, hold down shift. To draw curved lines, we can use the curve tool that's next to the polyline tool. And just like in Illustrator, you're drawing a Bezier spline with control points. You can activate those control points by clicking on the line itself and just moving the control points around. Now to get even better precision when you're working with points and lines in Rhino, you might want to use the O-snap tools. The O-snap tools allow you to snap the cursor to specific points in your geometry. You can snap to different points, you can snap to the ends of lines, you can snap to the midpoint of lines, and intersections between lines as well. This allows you a greater degree of precision when you're drawing. So let's say I've got this straight line, and I want to draw a line perfectly down the middle. I'm going to hover my mouse around the middle of this line, and you'll see that it gets highlighted. Your cursor is then drawn to that midpoint and allows you to click a point perfectly in the middle of that line. I can do the same thing with this other line. And then I can snap this line to the end of the original line. Even though you can snap perfectly to ends of lines, you can also draw kind of sloppily in Rhino and then correct the drawing afterwards using a couple of different commands like trim and extend. Now I'm just going to do a rough drawing as if I was kind of sketching it just freeform. Now this is kind of rough, but I can use the drafting tools in Rhino to clean this up and make it very precise. I can select all of these lines, and I can type in the trim command, and I can select points that I want to trim out of my geometry. And so now I've got a cleaned up polygon. Now the same thing works with curves. Let's say I've got this curve that goes through my geometry. I want to trim out the excess part of this geometry. And we can keep trimming it even more. So as long as you've got intersecting lines, Rhino will let you trim away at them. The other useful operation that you might want to do with lines is extend them. So let's say you draw a line and it falls short. You can select the boundary of the edge that you want to extend that line to and type in extend, and then select the curve you want to extend. Now let's do this side. Extend. Now you can also use the precision tools in Rhino to snap to an edge and rotate it to snap a curve into place. Let's say we want to turn this horizontally so that this line is perfectly horizontal. We can select our shapes and type in rotate, and select one end of that line and then the other end. And the rotate command allows it to pivot around a point in the geometry. Now sometimes you might have a lot of overlapping geometry and you want to get a shape that is only the intersections of parts of that geometry. You can highlight specific zones of that geometry using the curve boolean command. So select everything, curve boolean, and then you can highlight specific zones. And that'll give you a separate curve with only that zone highlighted. Now you might also want to fill some of these zones with a pattern or a hatch. To do that, we can use the hatch command. We can select everything that we want to hatch, type in hatch, and pick the pattern that we want to use. We can rotate it, we can scale it, hit OK. If we only want to hatch specific areas, we can repeat that using the boundary constraint. Rhino also has some really powerful tangent drawing tools. which allow you to draw very precise geometry that builds on the existing geometry that you have on the screen. So for example, if I have 3 circles on the screen and I want to draw a circle that touches perfectly all 3 of these, I can use the tangent circle button. I can click the circle button here, circle tangent to 3 curves, pick the first curve, the second curve, and a third curve, and I get a perfect circle that touches all 3 of my existing circles. We can even keep doing this to pack more circles in the extra spaces that we have. And then we can highlight everything, and we can even start trimming out some of the intersections. If you want to join curves together, you can select all of the curves you want to join and just type in join. The tangent drawing tools also allow us to draw circles perfectly tangent to curves. For this, we can select the circle tangent radius tool. Now, if you want more control over your lines, I recommend using layers to keep yourself organized. So I'm going to create one layer that is only for hatches, and I'm going to put this hatch on this layer. And then I'm going to make a layer that's 2mm line weight, and I'm going to select my curve and put it on that layer. I'm going to give it a color to keep track of it, and I'm going to set the print width to be 2mm. And now, when I want to output this drawing, I can create a Rhino layout, which allows me to place my drawing on a sheet of paper that I can then print out to a PDF. So hopefully this has been useful for you, and I'll see you next time.